assuming that someone is watching this and they've never met you before and they're not going to watch everything, and this 3 minutes that you say is the only interaction you're going to ever have with them, what is it you want to say? It's all around the world. People watch these videos all into the future. What is it that you want to say to someone that is giving you 3 minutes to sum up everything important you know in this world, that you want to tell them? If you have 3 minutes to say the most focused, important, and urgent information that you want to make sure they understand. It's seen by men, women, young and old, in 110 countries. So if you each give an some opening thoughts, 3-minute opening thoughts. Starting here would be great.
Well, thank you for having me. What I'd just really like to say is that climate change is something that's real. We have understood the basic physics between anthropogenic climate change for really a century, more than a century. A really smart guy, Svante Arrhenius, back in 1896, predicted that as carbon dioxide concentrations in the atmosphere rise, the climate will warm. He also said that the change would be most pronounced in the polar regions. And he wasn't quite right because it was really the Arctic, but he pretty much had it spot on. We're seeing that today. The thing is, we can beat this. It's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to take society really coming together on this problem, but I think that we can beat it. And what I think I also need to stress is how hard the scientists are working on these sorts of problems and understanding the problem. My book, Brave New Arctic, talks about how scientists came together from all over the world to understand the big changes going on in the Arctic and what they mean. And what I tried to get across in this book is that scientists are people too. We're very passionate about what we do. We're not in it for the money. I don't know many scientists at all who have become rich becoming scientists. You hear some people talk about fat government contracts that scientists live on. No, that doesn't work that way. We're just very passionate about what we do. But we've got a real problem here, and we've got to get a handle on it. We've got a window of opportunity, but we have to hit on it now. Thank you.
So what I would like to tell everybody is that we have all of the technology we need today to solve our climate crisis. We have spent a lot of time talking about the crisis and scaring ourselves, and there is a lot to worry about for sure, and we need to act quickly. But the transformation is happening. The clean technology is a better technology, and we should move to clean technology even if there were no climate change. It's the 21st century technology, and it's time to move past 20th century technology and into the future. It will take, an all renewable future is possible. It will take all of our work and different efforts. It'll take activists and politicians to pass laws. It'll take citizens to act and purchase products, like move to an all-electric home and get heat pumps and solar panels and electric vehicles. It will take teachers. It will take community organizers. It'll take all of the work for all of us to do it. But this is an effort that we can do. We have done it in the past. It's actually not as big as a World War II effort. It is a lot of effort, but to win and to beat fascism in World War II took 40% of our gross domestic product. This will take much less, and we can do this. This is within our human ability to do. It's not that hard or that complicated. I'm not saying it's not hard, but it's something we can do. And it's an exciting future if we do move to that future, because it'll be cleaner, safer, and a better future.
Thank you. So building on that, what I'd like to say is that it is possible. The potential to go to 100% clean energy for 100% of the population on Earth has actually gone from sort of being impossible to inevitable. If you look at the pundits, It's just sort of a matter of when, not if, now. We all know that we have the technology, and that actually by adopting it at scale, we drive the efficiency and costs to benefit all of us going forward. So we really need to focus on making the inevitable now immediate and getting this all to happen sooner by getting behind this transition to clean energy as quickly as we can. And that requires all of us acting not only as consumers and producers and entrepreneurs involved in the industry and businesses that this opportunity offers, which is where I work, but also as activists and campaigners and voters and citizens, demanding of our so-called leaders and others that they do the right thing and set the policies and create the markets and the opportunities for this opportunity to flourish, because it will benefit us all. And I think once we pursue it as hard as we should, as was mentioned, you know, it's not as big a lift as fighting fascism back in the day, but I feel that it's also an antidote to the kind of fascism that's rising in our societies now, that is coming out of the gross inequality of the failed paradigm of prosperity that was delivered by the fossil fuel industry and financialization of the 20th century. And with clean energy, we're offering to put power in the hands of people to distribute more these productive assets and the commanding heights of the economy going more to the community, which will in turn allow us to distribute wealth better, give more jobs. This is a much more job-dense, future employment-rich opportunity space, and engage people in the leadership and ownership of the productive businesses of the 21st century. And with that, we'll compete and combat with inequality and the rising difference between the rich and the poor, which is why we have demagogues rising and populism in all these places around the world. So it's sort of an antidote to the two great perils we face, climate change and a new kind of fascism. And we need to pursue it as hard and fast as we can. It's got to happen sooner than we currently are on track to do, but that's now the easier work than the initial lift, which was to get it to become possible from being impossible. And that's where we're at. We've just got to follow the course and make it go faster.
Well said, thank you. Is my microphone on? Can you hear me?
No, it's not
Do I
on.
have to switch it on?
Try again.
Can you hear me now? Oh, good. I'd like to...
Janet, you want to pass him your hand microphone?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh. Thank you, sorry. I'll never be a radio personality, will I? That's for sure. I'd like to thank everybody who put this great conference on, and I gather they do it every year. This is really, really a wonderful thing. That it's a wonderful thing that you're doing. And in general terms, a very big moment in my life was 10 years ago when a leading climate scientist made a statement based largely on the Arctic, that the world had reached a state of planetary emergency. And I was quite surprised that that expert wasn't supported more by the scientific community, and it seemed immediately obvious to me that, oh yeah, we were. And I started looking into it, and I had been working on air pollution for many, many, many years, and had been working on global warming, so I started doing some websites, and I started what I call Climate Emergency Institute. So what I've been trying to explain to people is that we're in a terrible, terrible Earth emergency. I will call it an Earth emergency now. And we have to respond immediately. The scientists have been saying this for at least 10 years, that action has to be now. And tragically, because of the opposition from, very well put by the way, the opposition from not only the fossil fuel industry but the investment banking corporations who are fracking the planet to death, hence my book, co-authored book. So they're either insane or they're evil, or they're probably both, and we got to beat these idiots.
Thanks. I guess what I would say is, first of all, everybody needs to understand that this is really an intergenerational issue. The climate system responds slowly to the forces that we apply to it. And as a result, we see climate changing now, but the potential for really disastrous impacts is what our children and grandchildren and their children will feel. And this is a strange situation because parents always sacrifice for their children. They don't mistreat them. But they don't really understand this. And it's hard to make people understand because of the difficulty in communication when there are very wealthy people who don't want the public to understand. And the tragic thing about this story is the fact that a solution doesn't really cost anything on the long run, because an economy is more efficient. If it's more efficient, it doesn't really cost you anything. And what we're doing now is subsidizing fossil fuels by not making them pay their cost to society. So it's a fairly straightforward solution. And you don't have to persuade people to make big sacrifices, just persuade them to understand it. The fact that we're going to have to add a fee, collect a fee from fossil fuel companies. And that fee is going to rise over time, and as it does, it will allow the alternative energies to take over. And if the money that is collected from the fossil fuel companies is distributed to the public, then the public will let this happen. Otherwise, they won't let it happen. That's the problem that we have. We have, on the one hand, we have a political party which says it's all a hoax. And on the other hand, we have a party that wants the money. And that's a problem, because the public will not allow a carbon tax if the money is going to the politicians. And it's a tragic situation that we can't get the centrist position to be understood. That's what we have to try to communicate. Thanks.
Hello. I'd say if there's one thing that's certain, it's that change is constant, and at this point in history we're witnessing a telescoping of change. We're seeing the acceleration of history where 50 years of change are happening in a decade. The weight now of 7.5 billion people on this finite planet is causing stress to Earth's ecosystems. We're having deforestation, overplowing of fields, overgrazing of pastures, overfishing of our oceans, desertification, and of course climate change are the results. Now, when you put it all together, the picture looks fairly grim, and all these trends intersect at what sustains humanity, and that's really our food supply. Our ability to produce food relies on having a stable climate, because human civilization, it's evolved over the last 11,000 years or so, and climate was relatively stable, and now we're departing from that norm that humanity and the foods we rely on has ever known. And so it's clear that the world needs to make change. Business as usual is not working for us. We need changes, but the answers are out there, and the answers are relatively simple. We need to stop burning excess fossil fuels and upsetting the Earth's heat balance. We need to stabilize population, allow people to plan their family sizes by educating girls, allowing for literacy around the world. We need to take care of Earth's ecosystems because they really support us all. And it is possible if we all play a role and if we all get politically active and we let our leaders know that this is important because it's really the fate of civilization that's at stake. And I would say that the picture sounds grim, except you look around the world and you can see glimmers of hope, and what we need to do is tie them together and amplify them. So we can see South Korea reforesting its hillsides. We can see Iran making great headway in educating girls. And you can look at what the United States did after the Dust Bowl, how we were able to stabilize soils. We can figure out how to grow crops on smaller land areas so we don't have to cut down the Amazon rainforest to plant soybeans that then go to feed cattle that then are fed to the rest of humanity. We can all live on this planet if we all of us in the developed world, if we all start living a little lighter, but it doesn't require sacrifice. If you look at the renewable energy transition, which this book is about, we can see we're moving there, and it's taken a lot of political will, it's taken policy, but now markets are starting to drive the process. The costs of wind power or the cost of solar panel power in many parts of the world are now undercutting fossil fuels. So this change is starting to accelerate, and when you put it all together, we're really at the race between two tipping points. It's tipping points in our natural system and tipping points in our social and political system. Can we make the social changes and political changes we need fast enough to avert some of these major tipping points in nature? Can we avoid the Amazon forest from burning or the West Antarctic ice sheet from collapsing? I think so, but time is limited, and so we need to act fast, and we all need to play a role. Thank you.
I start from recognizing that I am completely part of this problem. I don't know how to live without electricity for a few days. I don't know how to live without a refrigerator for a few days, and I could go on and on. My angle has been looking at the internet's contribution to climate disruption, and forgive me, I'm going to read something. So, the internet is the largest thing that humanity has built. It thereby requires enormous amounts of electricity, water, conflict minerals. It generates enormous amounts of greenhouse gases. It is not possible to send a text message or an email, take a selfie, watch a video, participate in a video conference, including this one, buy anything online, store food in a smart, energy-saving, Internet of Things connected refrigerator, drive a zero-emissions electric or hybrid vehicle, do a GPS search, or even power a home with a renewable solar-powered system, PV system, or wind-powered energy system, without extracting from the earth hundreds of minerals, elements, and compounds, including coal, copper, quartz, coltan, cobalt, lithium, neodymium, oil, petroleum coke, typically from the tar sands, and fracked natural gas. Behind every flip phone, smartphone, tablet, smart appliance, and e-vehicle, there are hundreds of refineries, CO2-emitting coal-fired power plants, electric plants, nuclear power plants, chemical plants, steel mills, cement kilns, metal smelters, wood chips harvested typically from the Amazon, and factories of all kinds. To keep running, each energy-guzzling, toxic waste, and greenhouse gas-emitting operation depends on all the others. They interconnect by a network of electric substations, power lines, natural gas pipelines, container ships, trains, trucks, shipping lanes, railways, highways, telecommunications access networks, and data communication centers to form one gigantic global super factory. In other words, each and every manufactured item and online activity is the end product of all the industries and infrastructures in the entire world combined. Calculating the size of a household's carbon footprint is therefore, if you just add up your monthly bills, is therefore like estimating the mass of an elephant by weighing the tip of its tail. Those calculations do not include the power demands of infrastructure for cellular communications, internet services, or the electric grid itself. They show only a fraction of a household's total environmental impact. Becoming aware of these inconvenient truths is a very personal experience. Questioning our assumptions about the internet and renewable power and all kinds of energy use and decreasing our consumption requires collective action. And I would say for me, the most important thing is noticing that I cannot be part of this solution until and unless I am aware that I am part of the problem.